All right, we're live.
Most of us are alive.
We're live.
Yeah.
Whee! Happy New Year.
Again?
At what
Is
point?
it
At
another?
what?
Is it another one?
At what point do we stop saying Happy New Year? The only reason I say it is because this feels like the first episode after the Game of the Year thing. So it feels like the
I know
new
what
year
you
can
mean.
officially begin now.
Yeah.
Gaming
No,
wise.
I know what you mean. However, like I'm still playing like old games. That's not true. I'm playing a few new games, but I was up until like maybe today. I was still playing old games, so it still didn't feel like the new year had begun.
Sure. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Um, John's supposed to be here, but I, I don't shrug. I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, we're just kind of hoping he's okay because usually
Yeah.
we get a message if something's wrong, but
Yeah, hopefully he'll join. I'm assuming he's asleep, but hopefully he'll join in at some point. But hey, if anyone out there knows where John is, let us know and tell him he's late for the podcast.
man, this is where it would be good to have like a printed out picture of him with like, have you seen this man? And just like hold it up to the camera or something, like a
Yeah,
visual
like
gag.
an like a milk carton.
A milk carton, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, people in chat are saying they think he's recording something, so maybe he's like working late or something like that. I don't know.
Could be.
Again, I feel like when that's a possibility, he usually gives us a heads up.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
why
don't know.
it's scary because he usually gives us a little message.
We shall see though. How's your last week been?
It's been okay. It's felt like a long week weirdly, and I don't really know why. I think it's the weird weather changes we're getting up here. It's been weird. So
Yeah, my mom's been kind of updating me. You guys are going all over the place, temperature wise.
yeah, I think that's part of it.
That's Calgary for you, but it's still pretty nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, nothing. Oh, have you seen the show Letter, Kenny? Because I started watching that. It
Okay.
is real good. I really, really like that show. It's really funny.
It's old though, isn't it? Like I feel like I've heard of that forever.
So like 2015 or 16 is when it started.
Okay.
They're up
Newer
to
than I expected.
10 seasons because every season is 6 episodes long.
Oh, okay. So it's still going.
It's still going, yeah. The 10th season just released on December something of last year.
Right on. That's cool. Um, what do you like about it? What's so good about it?
It's just so it is a fast talking Canadian comedy type thing, like good dialogue, good writing, funny characters, super stereotypical, but in the way that
Sure.
when you've lived up here, you probably know at least somebody who does some of these mannerisms. And so that stuff is pretty good. It's just kind of smartly written and funny.
Like when I think of like Canadian comedies that are just like too over the top, I think of like the Red Green Show,
Okay.
which
It's
is old.
yeah, no, it's not like that. I would say it's not like that.
I've also probably watched like less than 5 episodes of the Red Green Show because I just did not care.
Yeah, the Red Green Show intro music has like this weird effect on me where growing up anytime it started, I would just like run for the remote or whatever to change it because I found it so boring.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Pavlovian response is the term I was looking for. But yeah.
We started a new show. It must have been a couple weeks ago, but we've been watching almost an episode every night this last week. How to with John Wilson.
Yeah, I've watched it. It's good.
Yeah, a second season just came out somewhat recently. We're about halfway through that. Uh, that's a pretty enjoyable show.
The enjoyable part about it is seeing where the hell it ends up.
Oh, really?
For
Okay.
me, well, like every episode, because it's like this episode is how to whatever, right? And like how to make small talk, or I think is like one
That's
of the
I think
very
that's the
first one.
very first episode.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, then which one of them ends up going to a Mandela effect convention, and I think it's like
Yep.
I can't remember which one it was, but it's like this. I don't.
It's definitely real early on.
Yeah, and it just they go to such weird places and like just awkward, weird conversations with
One
weird
of the
people.
more one of the more recent weird people that he came across is he was in Florida and he went to the CEO of Bang Energy
Okay.
drinks house and he just like let him in during his like there was a baby shower happening and then he was just like, "Oh hey, I'm with HBO doing a documentary," and the guy was just like, "All right, let me show
Yeah.
you the house."
Yeah.
Um, it is pretty ridiculous. So it's produced
By
by
Nathan
Nathan
Fielder.
Fielder,
Yeah.
which is how I came across it as a big Nathan for You fan.
Yeah.
Um,
It has a lot of that same comedy style, but instead of like instead of him kind of starting or like keeping that going, he just kind of lets people like hang themselves. Really, he like provides a topic or whatever, and then he just talks to weird people, and it just builds in a weird way.
Yeah, it is also great because when he's like, you know, the whole thing's like a big monologue and he'll be talking about something, just the footage that he's collected of weird things going on in New York.
Yeah, yeah,
Like so many times we're like, what is that man doing? My God.
yeah.
So it's just kind of a good collection of video. So yeah, if anyone has access to HBO Max, um, How to with John Wilson is it's like a chill but like also very funny episode. Um,
It's very good. Yeah.
the one that ends up deviating and talking about like foreskin regrowth for a while. That was wild. Holy smokes, that was insane. And the
Yeah.
host John Wilson is so awkward. Like he's just like the
So
perfect
awkward.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is very Nathan Fielder
Yeah.
for sure. So
Yeah. It's very good. It's on Crave in Canada if you're in Canada.
right.
Also, Letterkenny is produced by Crave, so that's Crave original. If you have Crave, check that out too.
Okay, so I wouldn't even have access to it down here.
There's probably something that does, like maybe Hulu or something. There's probably something that does it.
Yeah, Crave and Hulu usually have a lot of overlap. A lot of the shows down here end up on Crave.
Makes
But,
sense, yeah.
all right, well, let's do a podcast about video games. Um, people in the chat are saying yes, it's on Hulu here in the States.
Makes
This is
sense.
the top down perspective for January 20th. I'm Sean Booker.
I'm Paul Fleck.
I think we need to start with news. I
Okay.
think we need to start with news.
I mean, you threw me off completely, but I like it. I'm awake now.
Yeah, it just makes hey, this whole week in terms of video game news has thrown me off completely.
Yeah.
Like the elephant in the room here, Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Like holy, I bet at this point everyone remembers where they were when they learned that news. Paul, where were you?
I was definitely sleeping, probably.
When you learned the news, you were asleep?
No, I woke up and like read it on like as I was getting ready for work, probably. You know how like you sometimes just wake up, lay in bed for a moment, and like scroll through your phone and check emails or whatever and Twitter. That's probably how I did.
That's exactly how I did it because a friend had like DM'd me on Twitter one of the headlines, and I was just like, "Oh, I got to get up early. Today's going to be a busy day at work."
Oh yeah.
I could not believe it. Like, I still almost can't believe it. What are your kind of initial thoughts? Kind of
Um.
ran through your head.
So the initial thought was, I okay. First of all, I was surprised that Activision would sell. I wasn't surprised that like Microsoft was necessarily buying them as like the company that is buying them or whatever, that at least bid for it. I was surprised that Activision was for sale at all. And the next thought was, oh, does that mean like Kodak is gone then? Like that was the next thought.
Well, just real briefly, John did text me back. He had something important show
Okay.
up, so he is alive, but I don't know if he's going to show up or not.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think my head initially went to Kodak with all of the like past few months
How could it
of
not?
shit going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of like the big question. And that's where a lot of the headlines have also been going as well, is what does this mean for Bobby Kotick? What does this mean for all of the allegations, the litigation that's been going on for months and months? But no, I think you're also right when you think about like it being for sale, because Activision Blizzard is massive.
I mean,
Absolutely massive.
Activision bought Blizzard. Like, they're huge. They're
They
completely
bought King
massive.
as well. King's also part of
Yeah,
that.
King. Yeah.
Like it's technically Activision Blizzard King. I should say, if people haven't heard the number, $68.7 billion,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. And it also is the biggest acquisition in video game history. This is the most money spent on purchasing a company in the video games industry of all time, which is also kind of nuts to think about. Worth mentioning, a week before, we didn't talk about this obviously last week because we did the Game of the Year episode. Take-Two buying Zynga for 12 billion. That was the record holder at the time.
Yeah.
Microsoft comes in and like what quintuples that.
I mean, when you're buying Activision Blizzard King, yeah, you probably have to. You probably have to give that much. That makes sense.
So much. Have you been following kind of all the stuff coming out from this?
Oh, fuck no. I don't care until the papers are signed and we have actual news.
Well, I mean, that's not going to happen for a year. So that's
Yeah.
part of one of the things is this doesn't close until fiscal year second quarter 2 of 2023.
Yeah.
Which puts us around June.
Yeah.
So it's about a year and a half to go. So a lot of stuff can happen there. The big thing, again, Bobby Kotick is staying on as CEO of Activision Blizzard. It has come out since that when the deal closes, he will be making an exit at that point.
Yeah. They also
Which I
can't
guess-
say anything until it's done. Like, they can't give details about any of that stuff. So we don't know what's going to happen with it. I mean, Bobby's going to get paid out and he's going to still be rich and nothing's going to come of what he's done. So, like,
right. Which I think it kind of sounds like as the months went on, obviously this would have been in talks for a lot longer than the litigation stuff was happening.
for sure. Yeah.
However, some of the articles I was coming across is it sounded like the bulk of these conversations actually happened in a much smaller time period near the end of the year than these things typically happen. It had sounded like Activision and Xbox had talked before
Yeah.
about this, but just in like, passing terms. And it's worth remembering, like all these companies are constantly talking to everyone about this kind of stuff, like at all times.
Yeah.
But it sounds like as all the litigation stuff went on, as all the accusations and whatnot, and the stock price was dropping, Xbox saw an opportunity to like really kind of like get in there fast and hard with an offer, and it came down to, and the phrase I was seeing kind of thrown around is Phil Spencer basically spent his whole like kind of like Christmas holiday break time putting this deal together and ironing it out.
Sure.
It was actually kind of relatively short in terms of what we're used to when we see this, but it does sound like Bobby Kotick will get a extremely gold parachute.
Oh, for sure.
June 2023 comes around.
Yeah.
And Phil kind of said, "Hey, we have," or Xbox in general basically said, "Hey, we have a way for you to kind of bow out gracefully.
Yeah.
Here's a way you can do that." Just opening up all of like my bit of news thing to run through here. Activision Blizzard reportedly was considering buying a few gaming media outlets to try and change their public opinion. This is also crazy to me. Two of the outlets that were thrown around, Kotaku and PC Gamer. Can you just imagine that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that scenario? How would that even work?
I'm sure that has, like, not to the extent this is that we're talking about. I'm definitely sure that a lot of places have been bought off to do that. I'm 100%. People are crooked. That's not surprising. Only Blizzard would have the gall to actually try to buy the companies out, though, fully.
Like, I can't even imagine a situation where we hear the announcement Activision Blizzard has bought Kotaku, and then
Yeah.
over the course of, I don't know, a year, because you're not going to get a headline the next day being like, everything that was accused of body Kodak was a lie.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that. They'd have to like try to slowly steer the ship and hope nobody's noticing that they're
New
actually
reports
do a
come out
U-turn.
that actually Bobby Kotick is awesome.
Yeah, turns out this one person lied, and then next week turns out these other two people lied.
Yeah.
Like what? Like that's insane. Nobody would be like, "Oh yeah, okay. That seems like it's all in the up and up. They obviously know what they're doing." Like that I can't imagine that working. What an insane thing to even consider.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely insane.
Like, could you imagine just being in that room being like, "What if we bought PC Gamer and we tried to get them to say nice things about us?" Like, who what?
And the sad thing is, I bet it like failed by a like slim margin. I bet it was like 40% for, 60% against, or something stupid.
Can't imagine. I want to assume that there are smart people at the tops of Activision Blizzard, or they wouldn't have gotten there somehow, or they would have known this is a bad idea. There's no way. But I mean, who knows, right?
It's such a bad idea.
What also came to light, Activision Blizzard apparently looked to Facebook as
Yeah,
a possible purchaser
Kodak is
of
obsessed
themselves.
with a metaverse. He won't shut the fuck up about it at all times, so that makes sense.
We also heard that EA was reportedly in the mix.
That also makes sense, like some sort of sense, but the money
Yeah,
probably
that one
wasn't
kind of
there.
makes sense to me. I could kind of see that.
Yeah,
I would have been less surprised.
totally.
Jeff Keighley came out here. I didn't like check his math or whatever, but he kind of just did a list of like, here's what a bunch of these other companies would cost, and this is like their market caps. So it's worth saying. It's like this is not exactly how much the company would sell for, because Activision Blizzard sold for more than its market cap. Activision Blizzard, they basically sold in cash each of their shares. And I think the shares were like $45 or something like that. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Um, but on top of that, Xbox paid 40% higher than that. So going up the street from Keeley, he basically said this is what each of their shares would net the company. So EA 38 billion, that's the highest one right there. Then it drops to Take Two being 18,
Okay.
Bandai Namco 15, the Embracer Group, which is just growing at all
Yeah.
times, 10.8. Ubisoft is 7 billion, Konami 6, Square Enix 5.6, Capcom 4.9, Sega 3.6. Kind of puts it in perspective.
Yeah,
Microsoft could buy any of these guys
totally. Well, if
for
they're
what they
for
just
sale.
did.
Yeah, money-wise for sure. They're able to.
At like a significant margin. They,
Yes.
they they could have just purchased it. I mean, you have to remember Microsoft is an absolute huge juggernaut of a company with a ton of money.
I mean, yeah, they're the biggest tech company, like, or at least were at one point in the fucking world. I don't
Well,
know if
what's
they
also
are still.
interesting is even though Microsoft just purchased this, and I'm gonna try and get my facts right. There's an extremely good infographic that someone made on Twitter here. I'm gonna throw it in our chat so you can look at it at the same time.
Oh, okay. Let me grab
I'm
it here.
kind of just put this together saying like, hey, look, this is all the companies and how much
Oh,
the people like their employees and whatnot. Xbox first party studios now owns.
okay.
Um, if you looked at like the Bethesda chunk, that's 2,300 employees. If you looked at before that, like the rest of that, which includes like Obsidian, Double Fine, yada yada, that was about 2,500 people. So you're looking at a little less than 5,000. Activision Blizzard alone,
Over double.
10,000 employees.
Yeah, easy over double.
So in terms of Xbox game studios, they just tripled in size. Even with
Yeah.
that, and with the revenue of all of these companies now to combined, we're still only number 3 when it comes to game companies. Above that, in number 2 is Sony. In number 1 is Tencent.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, because a lot of people, one of the first things you're thinking of is like, how does Sony respond? How does Sony deal with this? And it's almost like Sony doesn't care at all. Sony makes so much money off the PlayStation division. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just think about that. Xbox just bought 10,000 more employees, and they're still only third. That's crazy to think. That's massive.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And then you also have to think about, like, when you come to the hardware sales, like, doesn't PlayStation outsell Xbox like 7-1?
Probably that sounds probably right, but I mean the reason why I'm starting to dislike Sony and like Xbox more is because Xbox is not forcing me to buy one. They're giving me, like, they're serving a part of the audience that no console makers gave a fuck about before, really.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is Xbox's competition to win at this point, so they have to be kind of making these moves. Whereas Sony is just sitting there being like, "Look, we're not making any of these moves. We're outselling you 7-1, and we're the number two like revenue company when it comes to video games."
Right. Xbox making these moves is better for them in the long run, hopefully, though, because they're not going to lose as much money on hardware and they're going to just. I mean, they're making the moves for future wins for sure.
But that's one of the big questions is like there's been a few reports from both from like I've seen like the Wall Street Journal, I've seen interviews with Phil Spencer about what does this mean for exclusives?
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah.
What does this mean for Overwatch? What does this mean for Deadpool? What does this mean for Call of Duty? That's kind of the big one, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for Activision stuff. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. So, Phil Spencer came out and said, hey, we're going to put, quote, as many of these titles as we can on Game Pass, whatever that means.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, whatever licensing deals each of the games have.
Yeah.
But they've also said it's not about stopping exclusives from being on Sony. And what I'm assuming that will mean is it'll be a similar thing to Bethesda of like anything that we have made a commitment to be multi-platform is obviously going to remain multi-platform. You look at Psychonauts 2.
Yeah.
You look at the Outer Worlds, they came out on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right? They were announced for PlayStation before they got purchased. So I see next year's Call of Duty being multi-platform for sure. Maybe even the following one, maybe. What about the one after that? Like how long until Call of Duty or is Call of Duty so massive that it will be everywhere forever? Because think of Minecraft. Xbox bought Minecraft. Minecraft is on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft has never once said we're going to make that exclusive to our platforms. And I think Call of Duty is a similar size there. I could see Call of Duty being so massive that they want to have people still on PlayStation playing that game.
Yeah. I would think so.
What do you think about Blizzard's titles, though?
I think the ones that are getting attention will still, and I think some of the other ones that are dead will just completely stay dead at this point. Like, there's no hope. Like, Heroes of the Storm, I don't think is ever coming back. Ever. That's done. Obviously, they're going to probably continue with Overwatch, Diablo 4, the stuff that makes some money. Maybe, like, an overhaul of some sort with WoW would be something that they do, because they would have to. It would be a good chance for them to do the Final Fantasy XIV thing and start serving WoW to console gamers as well as PC.
I see a move where it's like, if you have Game Pass, you have a free subscription to WoW.
Yeah. Oh, like, yeah, just simple integrations, I think, is like the key thing. I don't think they get rid of BattleNet because there's an infrastructure there. I think they just kind of add on to it. If you have Game Pass, you get, like you said, a subscription, maybe even like little loot things when they come up, like pets and shit like that.
I mean, they already have their Game Pass Ultimate perks.
Yeah.
Which, for the most part, have been kind of trash.
Yeah.
In the same way that, like, Twitch Prime's perks have been often trash. But it's still an avenue that they have, like, they have a something already built in there of, we will give you little gun trinkets.
Yeah.
Or MMOs that you don't play.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis, if you would like. If you're way into Paladins, this is your shit.
Yeah, and I am.
Yeah.
Maybe more importantly, like, maybe they can start, if they own the StarCraft IP, maybe they actually put out StarCraft Ghosts in 2025 or like something. Like, they have companies that can actually do a third person or first person shooter in those universes. Like,
I
who
mean, I'd
knows?
be surprised if it was Ghosts, but let's say a
Yeah.
Star Trek title.
No,
Do you
that's what
think
I meant.
do you think there's any Blizzard IP large enough that you would think it would be odd if it became exclusive? Like, whereas I'm saying I think
Oh,
Call of Duty is too
exclusive?
big to be exclusive. Do you think there's any Blizzard IP that fulfills that same thing, or do you think it doesn't matter, anything Blizzard titled is small enough that if it went exclusive, I could understand that?
So it's hard to say because when you say small, it's because you're not PC gaming. Blizzard's has the biggest PC games in the world still.
I mean,
So
you
for
say
in
that, but like, who's talking positively about Blizzard in the last like 3
it doesn't matter.
years?
People are still playing those games. It doesn't matter who's talking about them in the press. People are still logging it. For some reason, people are still logging into WoW, and it hasn't been good for over 5 years.
Right, but those numbers are definitely dwindling.
Sure.
They're not in the power position that they have been.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying, is like I don't think that they have a strong enough IP at the moment that would mean it has to go on a Sony platform. Like, let's think, Diablo 5, would you be surprised if Diablo 5 did not come to PlayStation?
I mean, I would be a little bit surprised. Diablo, I don't know. It's hard to say because Diablo 3 did really well on console in general and on PlayStation. So I don't know if they make that exclusive. I guess like
Because
I
to
don't
me,
see
I see
why.
it as not being big enough.
It could be.
I mean, we're just speculating. I mean, this whole conversation is speculative, and that's the fun.
I mean, this could all not be like a thing that even happens in a month. That's the thing, is until it goes through, we kind of don't know what's going to happen at all.
I mean, the purchase is going to happen. Are you saying there's a part of you that thinks that they might not purchase Activision Blizzard in the long run?
You never know. It's not finalized. Like, it could not happen, but if they're talking about it now, it's likely to happen, but shit always happens or goes wrong. Maybe they just shut down Blizzard and take the IPs. Like, they're just like, you know what? This is Xbox or Activision stuff now belongs to Microsoft. Get fucked, everybody in this wing.
I mean, I haven't seen that. I mean, I wouldn't count on that based on
No.
their track record. They seem to be doing well, and you know, some of the more stuff that I pulled here, Phil Spencer's speaking about kind of the old IPs that we haven't been seeing much. If you think about Activision puts out one game a year at this point, and it's
Yeah, no, I made a tweet about this. The thing that's exciting about this isn't about Kodak or any of that stuff to me. It's the fact that, like, Raven Software might be given a chance to do something again. Fucking Sledgehammer, like, maybe they get some Dead Space thing. Toys for Bob can release shit again. Like, all these fucking companies have been doing QA for Call of Duty, so maybe they can actually, like, do a thing now. Because I know Phil Spencer likes having the ability to release just, like, different stuff. Because I, like, legitimately believe that he really enjoys just the industry and gaming as a thing. I don't think he wants just like a bunch of studios working on Call of Duty.
right. And I feel like that's kind of like what the real win here might possibly be, is if you look at Activision's track record over the last few years, they've taken a lot of their studios that were making games, good or bad regardless, and said, hey, you know what if you made more maps for Call of Duty?
Yeah.
You see that with Toys for Bob. We see all it with Vicarious Visions with Tony Hawk, and
Yeah.
that crushed us. We were all so sad when that happened.
Yeah.
But Phil Spencer has come out a few times and said, look, there's a lot of IPs that we want to like foster and grow. He specifically points out, like, he wants to support the new teams to work on franchises he loved as a kid. And he dropped like 3 titles that kind of perked my ears up: King's Quest, Guitar Hero, and Hexen.
Hexen, holy shit.
It's like, hell yeah, you're making a new Guitar Hero?
You're making a new Hexen?
Yeah.
Fuck Guitar Hero.
I would love a new Guitar Hero. I mean, that's kind of one of the pie in the sky things is there an Activision property where you're like, I would love for them to bring this back?
Man. So the thing is I really want Singularity 2. That's like I wouldn't mind if they did something cool with Skylanders that didn't involve toys, but I don't know that that avenue is ever
Well,
coming back or
I
coming
feel
up.
like if you're not going to involve toys, don't call it Skylanders.
Call
Call
it
it a Spyro
Spyro
game.
something.
Yeah,
Spyro
yeah.
shitty friends.
Those Spyro games are good. I'll take a new Spyro. Like I would play through the Reignited trilogy. That's a fantastic product.
uh, what's the chances, because they own Radical Entertainment, that a prototype third game ever comes out?
I don't think so.
This
I think the fact that we got a second one
is amazing.
was already surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Guitar Hero would be very cool. I don't understand. I don't think you could do it though. I really would be shocked.
It would be, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think Tony Hawk 3+4 is greenlit like from day one when they have the chance to do that.
It seems like a no-brainer almost. Yeah, that seems
it
easy.
seems like a slam dunk.
Seems easy. Yep.
That another Crash,
Oh yeah,
another
of course.
Spyro. Those seem like complete slam dunks.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, they own Geometry Wars again, bringing it home.
Nice. All right.
So as far as I'm concerned, Xbox just spent $68 billion to reacquire Geometry Wars. And I think that's the real win here that not enough people are paying attention to.
Nobody is paying
Give me the
attention
real,
the
Geometry
real
Wars
news.
3. That's, yeah. Other stuff to think about, like, so Microsoft's been putting their games, their PC games back on Steam. So are we going to get Blizzard games on Steam now?
You know, if they got rid of the BattleNet launcher, I'd be totally fine with that. I fucking hate that thing. So I don't know why you wouldn't.
Is, do you think they would get rid of BattleNet?
I don't think they would, but I think they could. And I would be okay with it.
Well, they already have their launcher and they're putting stuff on Steam.
Yeah. No, I think they do kind of what they do with like Ubisoft and EA Play or whatever. I think you could like click on it and it opens up BattleNet and installs it or whatever. Checks to see if you have Game Pass.
Oh, you mean Origin? EA Origin.
Yes, yeah.
Because plays the subscription service. I mean, this bolsters Game Pass by an insane margin.
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, Game Pass is getting better and better all the fucking time. It's crazy.
All the time. This last week alone, holy smokes.
There was some good
lucky
stuff.
boys and girls. Yeah. But if we're getting a bunch of these titles are going to be getting put into Game Pass, like I've said this before, I almost say it every week. If I did not have access to Game Pass, I would feel like I am significantly missing out.
I mean, if Game Pass didn't exist, I would just be spending a stupid amount of money like I used to on games. I basically don't buy games anymore.
I would be spending a lot more money, and as such, I would have to not be playing a lot of these games.
Yeah.
And I would be missing out for sure.
In some regards, it might be like better to have that barrier because it feels like I'm like drowning in them sometimes. But yeah,
I mean, it's a good problem to have. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Yeah. I'm curious. What do we think this means for like Sony's Spartacus rumored Game Pass competitor? Because theoretically, Microsoft just took a huge publisher off the board that will not show up in Spartacus.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any real hope for Spartacus because I don't think it's going to be anything that I care about as not having a PS5. I don't think they're going to give me any good things on PC. I think I'm going to be kind of, or like I'm going to have to pay like double the price as a base for it or something. Because Sony hates me because I won't buy their fucking box.
I mean, I'm thinking, so I think Sony, I mean, it was just all rumors, but it did not sound like Sony first party titles were going to be going into Spartacus, similar to how Microsoft's
that's instantly a fail in comparison. Instantly.
Which, sure, yeah. I mean, keep in mind, Sony spends hundreds of millions of dollars to make AAA, narrative single player titles and stuff. So I guess they really want to make the money back on that. I love those games, right? Spider-Man's fantastic. I loved God of War. I love Last of Us. They're fantastic games. But if you take those out of the proposition for whatever Spartacus is, and it now comes down to third-party titles, which now don't include Bethesda, Activision Blizzard titles, you're the pool of games to pick from is getting a lot smaller. And let's say I'm not saying things that are in Game Pass are going to be exclusive to Game Pass. There are plenty of titles that show up on like all three platforms, and then on Xbox they just happen to be, quote unquote free as part of Game Pass.
Right.
So I could see some overlap. But in that case, it's like, well, what's my incentive to play the PlayStation one when I'm already subscribed on the Xbox one?
I mean, it's literally that you don't have a PC or an Xbox. That's your only incentive.
It's just so the only person left is, oh hey, I'm a Sony only player or a Sony Nintendo only player, which there are plenty of.
There's a lot
I think
of those.
our listener base are primarily Nintendo with a PlayStation.
Yeah.
So like
probably
those people definitely exist.
Definitely the Nintendo part. That's for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, either way, even if there's some overlap, it's not going to be entire overlap. There's going to be exclusives. We've seen it. Like we know, with Bethesda, Starfield is going to be exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah.
You're missing out on so much that when you're making that choice, I'm curious if the decision of which console you're buying is getting harder or not, or are people still going to be going Sony? Is it still going to be this like 7-1, or someone said in the chat it was actually maybe like 2.5-1 or whatever? I'm curious if that needle will shift. I don't know, 2024, when we've seen 6 months of what they're going to do with Activision.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird.
The long game, and I'm sure this is what Xbox wants.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see and I'm sure before this happened, you would have said no. Now that they've made this purchase, what's the likelihood of an Xbox Game Pass icon showing up on a PS5? Showing up on a Switch.
I mean, Switch makes, I'm a little bit surprised there's not like a weird Game Pass for Switch yet.
Well, I'm not even saying like a Game Pass. I'm talking Xbox Game Pass.
Well, I just mean
about that for
a Game Pass for Switch specifically, because not every game on Game Pass will even run on the Switch, so they'd probably have to cater it.
Can you see it on Sony though?
No.
Can you see Sony caving and saying, we need to get these games back on our console one way or the other?
No, because I think Sony are kind of dickheads. Like, I kind of just don't... They have good games and good IPs, but I think the people that make the business decisions for Sony are out of touch and shitty with consumers. That's why.
I think they have shown to be a bit shitty with consumers for sure. The crossplay is the big example of that. I do feel like, while I'm still saying I don't think there's a chance that Sony would like budge and lower their armor and show their soft underbelly and say, yes, we need to have these people still playing with a PlayStation controller. So as long as they're playing on PlayStation, you can put your streaming service on here. But the needle has moved a little bit after buying Activision.
Oh yeah, it absolutely has. Yeah. It is interesting to see the ramifications of this down the road.
I'm so curious. Again, we do predictions every year. I would never have made this a prediction.
Yeah, this was like a Hail Mary that I don't know how you would even start to come across that idea. Because again, I didn't know Activision was even going to sell.
Well, I mean, even if pie in the sky, if you're thinking of, well, what companies can you see being bought? Konami, I could see being bought any day of the week.
A little surprised it hasn't been, to be frank. Yeah.
Sega, I could see Xbox buying Sega tomorrow because they want a foothold in Japan. You know what I mean? That just makes sense to me. Activision, never would have put Activision on that table as a possibility.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm so curious.
It's weird.
This is ridiculous. It's so crazy. This is one of the craziest news stories that has ever happened in the games industry, as far as I'm concerned. Think of E3. Xbox can have its own E3 now. They don't need anyone else there. They have so much.
They have a lot of
exciting games. If they have an Xbox event, which they do, that's going to just be exciting for everyone. Everyone can enjoy something here. And then yeah, let's go back to Kodak for a bit. We're talking about it in the chat. The harassment, the workers.
Yeah.
That's now Xbox's responsibility, or it will be in
Yeah.
2023. You see anything happening before the deal goes through?
No.
I think it just kind of stays as is.
I mean, I hope they make some concessions to get people back to work. Isn't there still strikes going on? Like,
Raven Software still having strikes based on like the QA department. That
yeah,
happened somewhat recently.
yeah,
Um, and then I know there's a whole like kind of union fund going on of them trying to build it, which I mean I haven't heard firsthand, but I haven't heard much of like Microsoft being a bad place to work. And Phil Spencer is coming out, and he in his announcement of this buyout, he didn't initially like directly mention all the litigation, but there was a couple lines of like, we're gonna bring them in, and we're gonna hold everyone like accountable to our standards.
yeah,
Everyone deserves respect, yada yada yada. So he kind of danced around it, similarly to how Jeff Keighley danced around it at the Game Awards.
yeah. I don't
I mean,
think
I would
he
hope
legally
something
can
would
say
happen.
what's going to happen with
Oh
that
no, for
yet.
sure.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it
no,
makes sense he would dance around it.
absolutely for sure. Yeah, I mean, Phil seems like a good guy. Haven't
He does.
seen like any kind of like dark side come from any of these acquisitions yet. So I want to believe that come June 2023, he's gonna fix a lot of that stuff. It sucks to think
Yeah,
that it might take that long.
it might even take longer. Uh, like I don't know. I hope he has a list of names that like have already been vetted to like get severance packages because he doesn't want that bullshit in upper management anymore. But there's still going to be weeding out they're going to have to do, and like best case scenario, I just kind of hope that it isn't we bought it, Kodak is out, and there's still like some weird rapists in like HR or something. Like I hope they actually go through that company, but I don't know that they will because
Right, I mean,
yeah,
unfortunately, like we're talking about 10,000 employees.
exactly. There's going to
I'm
be
sure the
a
only
bunch that slip through for sure.
right, right. Yeah, let's I what
I
I'm
think
hoping is that the employees at Activision Blizzard are looking at this as like a win for themselves. I would hope.
well, I think just if there's enough of a change in the work culture, that stuff will weed itself out eventually because stuff will actually come up. It won't be hidden into this weird boys club under the rug sort of shit anymore, and it will be dealt with. So I think as long I haven't heard anything either, obviously, as long as there is a positive work culture thing with Xbox and Microsoft, that stuff will work out eventually. I just it's been brought up in the chat a few times here. I'm a little bit worried what this is going to do with the talks about unionization and how like is this just going to be dropped now because that's the new news cycle thing is the buyout and the money and all that stuff, and then there's a bunch of people that are like we almost had like a really secure environment to work in and now it's gone because Xbox decided to like buy our shitty company that we work for. I hope that there's still like that stuff still gets addressed in the way it deserves to be. And I hope it's not just kind of like, oh, this is going to fix all the problems and then like nothing changes. That would be the worst case scenario.
I mean, there's going to definitely be changes. There has to be, and I
There
feel
has
like
to
at
be.
this point you can only go up. Um,
Yeah.
People have been like falling out of Activision Blizzard over the past 2 months
Yeah.
by the dozens. It sounds like so. It sounds like some people are out so far, and but the big thing is just the board of directors have been behind Bobby Kotick and keeping him around,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the thing that was drawing all the attention.
Yeah.
Things obviously wouldn't change overnight.
No.
I'm pro building these unions
Yeah.
because we see time and time again people getting taken advantage of where the union could protect them. I would hope that maybe Xbox and Microsoft's, kind of ecosystem would, for lack of better words, make it so that they don't need that union because they're going to fix a lot of these problems not to say that I don't think the union
Yeah.
should happen, but I just
Yeah.
hope that they're going to alleviate a lot of the pain that it was what generated the want of the union.
Sure.
When you heard this news, were you like, "This is exciting"? This for me, like, what do you look forward to with this, or are you against it? Kind of what are your personal thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not against it. I thought it was interesting, but until like stuff is really solidified, I kind of don't care.
For me, like if I'm thinking of like actual tangible things that I'm looking forward to doing, I'm gonna play through a bunch of Call of Duty campaigns because I would never buy those games.
Okay, so we're talking about like 8 to 10 years down the road when everything's gone through and like things are kind of steady. What is your
I don't
best
think
case
it's gonna
scenario?
take 8 to 10 years for Call of Duty to show up on Game Pass.
No,
Let's
not
say
Call of
it's
Duty
2025.
specifically. I mean,
Talk
for
about it's
the deal went
2025.
through, the infrastructure is there for whatever they're going to do, and we can just worry about the games now.
I'm talking, yeah, Paul Fleck. How is
Yeah.
this going to affect you? Positive, negative? What are you looking forward? What are you thinking?
It isn't going to at all because I bought any game from Activision that I wanted to play, which has been very,
So
very
you'll say
few.
you're looking forward to saving money on a bunch of games that you would have bought anyway. You're looking forward to them being on Game Pass.
So I want Game Pass to just this isn't actually true because monopolies are terrible. I kind of hope just Game Pass has every game on it at some point, and I can just give somebody, like, I don't know, raise it to $20 a month. I don't care if I have every game in the world on there that I have access to. I'm good. Like, I'm done. Gaming has been solved. We solved it.
Yeah, I mean if we're talking like broader scope in terms of the subscription service, you're almost seeing this happening where it's following the exact thing that TV happened. TV
Yeah.
had cable,
Yep.
then Netflix came and it was the one thing, and it was like, wow, everyone needs to have Netflix.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it seems like everyone kind of does have Netflix. They kind of all budget out a few streaming services, but everyone kind of has Netflix as like a default.
Yeah.
But then so many other ones launch theirs where you're almost looking at it like it's almost like cable again. I'm subscribing to like 8 different TV things.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's going to happen. Looking
It's
at Game
already
Pass,
kind of
we
starting to feel that way a little.
we
It's
have EA
starting to.
Play, we have Ubisoft's
Yeah.
one. You know, you can subscribe to Twitch to get free games. You can subscribe to, you know, there's a bunch. Spartacus is happening. There's Nintendo's one that's free games. You know, we're getting so many of those.
Yeah.
So it's almost starting to come that way. I feel like it's not quite there because Game Pass is such a juggernaut in that space. You can kind
Yeah.
of get away with not subscribing to any of the other ones and still feel good about Game Pass.
Yeah.
Either way though, like I'm looking forward to getting to play Crash 4 without having to pay for it.
I mean, yeah, Crash 4 is great, and it would have been better if I didn't pay like $60 for it or whatever.
Yeah, there's a like again with Call of Duty, it's like I don't have enough interest in those games to buy them. But like if it's on Game Pass, sure, I'll play through the like 6-hour campaign and see the fun Michael Bay movie.
They're fun. I usually check out those campaigns. Vanguard's the first one I haven't, actually, I think.
Yeah. That's some ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
Just wow. Just absolute wow. I can't wait to just see like the news stories that continue from this. Like what else is going to happen, what this leads to. What like E3 is going to be so exciting come I guess 2025 will be the first time Xbox has everything and they can announce like some new stuff from their new division.
Yeah. It's also interesting to think that like Xbox might just get like there might be Game Pass for mobile as also. We have King there now, so like they can start dipping their feet into actual like mobile Xbox branded things and games.
That was kind of one of the things with King. They definitely want to leverage King to be a bigger mobile threat. And then they did throw around the word metaverse there briefly, which, okay.
They need to, world needs to stop. The industry needs to stop with metaverse.
Well, here's the thing is when it comes to metaverse, when it comes to NFT stuff, they're making so much headlines. They're making so much like initial money off suckers that investors are now going to all of these companies and saying, so what's your strategy for NFTs? And now these developers need to have an answer.
Yeah.
I feel like the brief mention of metaverse was just to get investors to be like, okay, cool. They said the thing. Great. I'm glad to hear you guys are working on something metaverse. Who knows if what that would be in any capacity, but
yeah.
I've been hearing time and time again, developers do not care about NFTs, but investors do because they're just these,
Well, because
Pyramid schemes.
NFTs in games is bad because you build around making money rather than having fun, and games are meant to be fun.
And I mean, and that's the other thing is I'm also hearing like a lot like Patrick Clipping at Waypoint just put out an article where he actually sat down and spoke to some of the people who bought the Breakpoint NFTs over at Ubisoft, like who these people are.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. I forgot
so
that was a
pretty
thing.
Interesting read. Yep, if it's a pretty interesting read, definitely worth checking out. And one of the things you kind of mentioned is he gets like on the daily like an NFT pitch in his PR.
Yeah,
and it takes him like 6 clicks through the email links to even figure out what the game is.
yeah.
And he's talked to people on the PR side who he has a bit more of a relationship with, and it sounds like it is easier to get to turn NFT people into gamers than it is to get gamers into NFTs.
Totally, 100%.
What they're doing is they're collecting all of these suckers to get in on the NFT thing, and then later on being like, oh, and by the way, it's there's a card game here, you could play it if you want, but I mean, you just bought some cards. You want to play a card game? They don't care about that part too much. But because once they made a bit of money, then they just move over to the next one.
Yeah.
So they don't even have to even build the game, really. They just need to sell some NFTs.
Yep. That's why it's important for people to actually be vocal about it. Because if NFTs stop actually making money, or at least, the very least, if people that actually play games are vocal enough that things lose money because they have NFTs in it, they'll come out of games and they'll stick to JPEGs and music files and whatever else. So, but if people stop complaining, man, we're dead. It's no good.
I think they just need to be quiet about it. But the problem is you can't just say people who play games, because it's not people who play games. It's people who like NFTs and get rich quick schemes. They're the ones doing this.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's easier to get NFT people to then maybe play a game or not. It doesn't matter than it is to get gamers to care about NFTs. All right, let's just do these last few news stories. They're pretty short, and then we'll talk about what we've been playing. Cuphead trailer came out for the Netflix cartoon. Did you watch this?
No.
Looks great. I'm just going to say that. I think it looks really good. I think it's got some good music bits in it. I'm definitely going to play this. It makes you want to go play Cuphead again, and I think that's probably like the best thing you could,
Yeah, good advertisement for your game.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Steam database updated. You can log in, and now you can basically see a list of which games are going to be playable on the Steam Deck. So you can kind of look at.
I heard it's a surprising giant list of things that you wouldn't think.
I'm not surprised. I am continuously seeing more and more developers getting dev kits and just saying, "Hey, we did nothing, and my game's running great."
Yeah.
I didn't lift a finger, and it is running great. So I am not surprised. A bit of an older news story, but we did Game of the Year last week. New Kirby has a release date, March 25th. A new trailer came out. This game looks so good. Holy smokes, this game looks so good. I cannot remember the last time I looked forward to a Kirby game.
Yeah, maybe Epic Yarn before, because I thought it looked cute.
I guess, maybe. Yeah. I mean, typically when it comes to a Kirby game, it's like, oh, I hear it's good. Okay. Yeah, if I get a hold of a copy, I'll play some Kirby, but it's never like I am anticipating a Kirby release. I am anticipating Forgotten Land.
Sure, yeah.
And last bit of news story here is that Sony it has announced that it will continue to produce PS4s through 2022, adding about 1 million more units. And it seems like mostly because they can't sell enough PS5s, but they can sell plenty of PS4s.
They probably they have stock of PS4s is why. Yeah.
Well, they're going to make more. They're going to produce more, and it's probably just easier for them to do that at the moment than PS5s.
Yeah.
Which kind of came on some other news that the Xbox One has officially stopped production.
Oh.
Entirely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Sure.
All right. At this point, why don't we talk about what games you've been playing?
Okay. What I've been playing?
Yeah, what have you been playing?
Oh. So we can talk about Rainbow Six Extraction officially now. So that's good. Let's talk about that because you played it too.
I played a little bit today. I played about 4 matches or so.
Okay. So
matches, quote unquote levels.
Did you completely finish them? Like all 3 objectives, or did you die or leave early?
I got a mix of both.
Yeah.
So let's see. The first time, we didn't die the first time, but I think we
Barely got out.
So for those who don't know, Rainbow Six Extraction is a siege like mixed with a Left 4 Dead. I do want to say though, to its credit, this is probably like the least Left 4 Dead feeling, Left 4 Dead style game I've played.
For people that know GTFO, it is literally that game.
Okay, I don't.
Sure, it is though. It's the same gameplay style. It's kind of a objective based stealth thing that like you don't want to alert the horde ever. Where in Left 4 Dead, at some points you're going to, but if you do if you alert them in this, it's usually a really long drawn out hard fight or you're dead.
It's real hard.
Yeah,
and that's kind of one of the other big things. I'm playing on like the lowest of low difficulties.
Yeah,
and we're still like just getting destroyed for the most part. Like you really do not want to alert people. You want to be sneaking around, taking out the nests so that they're not constantly spawning on you and whatnot.
Yeah,
I will say we're not like using the like little wheelie drone guy to like find stuff.
Yeah.
Did you use much of that?
No, you surprisingly don't use a lot of the things Siege is known for. I would say maybe High Level does, but I haven't been in a match where people were like, so there are objectives where you're going to have to hold out. Nobody ever reinforces the area. Nobody ever drones to see stuff. At most you pick an operator where you basically always like want a recon operator and maybe like a support operator of some sort. And that's like, and then otherwise it doesn't matter.
If you're familiar with any of like the Siege characters, you can pick like the dude who has the hammer so that you can like break down walls, which just seems bad to me because that would just alert people over to your situation when you're trying to be like real quiet. And it's also not really hard to get to a lot of areas. Like I haven't maybe it's because I'm playing on the easiest difficulty. Anytime I see it's like, okay, I think we need to go there, there's usually a door or I just go around it. I'm assuming maybe on the harder difficulties, it's like, oh, we made it real hard, but if you brought this guy, you could just get in and get out if you wanted to.
In situations that it helps with is when you have to like extract somebody and things have gone to shit. You can just like bust open walls to get like to the extraction point quick.
Okay.
And just like run through.
You do have the option of playing loud, which I have yet to like just try playing like a loud one. We have always like as soon as we start crouching. We're going around.
It's not meant for that, really. It's way too difficult. There are points where you have to do loud stuff, but like it's really meant to be stealth.
At some point, if you like alert people and they're running at you, it's like, okay, I need to bring out the shotgun. Yeah, they already know where I am, so I just need the firepower.
Yep.
But in terms of like Siege, like I'm not like peeking around corners and like tilting. I don't even know if you can tilt in this one.
It is very not Siege playstyle, like at all. It's really just all in the kind of base engine stuff that's there.
Right. It's like a mix between like a Left 4 Dead and Siege. Because Left 4 Dead, like I don't care who hears me. Like I got plenty of firepower and I'm gonna bandage myself up. It doesn't matter at all. But this one, it's like, no, you need to be taking care of yourself. That kind of goes hand in hand with like the level structure. There's like 3 chunks you can do, and at any point you can decide, I'm out, I'm just going to cash in the experience I've collected, or you can kind of like, risk reward, hey, let's do another section of it and try and get the next objective, yada yada. So going back to your initial question, I did a couple where we like bounced when we were in number 2. We lost a character in one of them, which that's probably one of the like craziest game decisions. Is you're playing as these hero units, right? These named characters, and then you can lose them, and you have to extract them by going back into that stage, finding the body, because the body becomes an objective, and escaping with it, which I think that is really cool, because you would not see that in many games.
It's cool, but I hate it. I don't like it, because I don't like being locked out of like, if you lose Pulse, like, congratulations, everything is 10 times harder now. Just because you don't have access to that character. I guess you get your buddy to play him instead, but like...
Which one's Pulse?
He's the one that has the heartbeat sensor that you can like ping. So it's kind of neat because the things that do recon in this game aren't just for you, it's for your whole team. So when you're like pinging the heartbeats and you can like see them through the walls, the team members can also see that as well.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a really cool decision, so that they make good decisions so that you can play with randos and not have to do callouts all the time and hope that they're listening to you.
Yeah. I like Vigil. His ability is like
Going
you
invisible.
can be like undetected for a
Yeah.
second. So basically, anytime I see like a big enemy, I can tap right bumper and then just go up and use a takedown move on them. So I like Vigil quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Lion's good, kind of a similar thing where he just pings everything in an area around him.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think I have Pulse. You have to unlock the characters. A lot of them. You start with like 8 or something, but I think there's like
Pulse is one
16
of the
maybe.
start ones.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing Pulse on mine,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe I'm misremembering. Um, but to counter your thing is you said you don't want to lose them, but if you can't just keep replaying the same character because if you lose health, they will be injured for the next match, so you'd be going in at a disadvantage. So you kind of
Also
have
don't
to
like
jump
that.
around characters.
Also don't like that decision.
Oh, I kind of like it just because it's ballsy and it forces me to play other people, and otherwise I don't want to just stick with one character. I want to try out the different strategies.
I disagree, just fundamentally. So that's
All right.
why I don't like a lot of the decisions in that game.
Well, but are you enjoying the game itself?
No, not really. I'm not going to play it again. Probably.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to play it again. I'm going to try and play through like all the stages. I've only seen New York so far.
Yeah, you do have to. So I guess like for anybody listening, you do have to unlock basically everything. Like there's a progression there where you unlock the stages and unlock new tech and weapons and attachments for those weapons, and like Sean said, operators as well, other operators. So there's a lot of stuff to unlock.
And there's like bonus objectives that you can kind of work on while you're doing the like actual level objectives, which will help you unlock more stuff as well. So it can be like the first one you get is like ping 5 nests, which is super easy to do, but then they get more specific and stuff like that as well. So there's kind of like a lot to work on. It's almost a bit overwhelming at the beginning. And even like the first like 1 or 2 games, like it was still just like,
what the fuck am I doing?
What am I doing? What did I do wrong? I'm not even sure what these symbols mean. Like it is a little, I will say it is overwhelming at the beginning. There's a steep kind of learning curve. Similar to Siege. Siege had a big kind of learning curve of like what you should be doing and whatnot. So just kind of be warned about that if you're going to start it. But it's on Game Pass, so like definitely worth checking out.
And it is fully crossplay. Cool. You can play with PC and console in the same match.
Yes, crossplay is on. I still wish there was crossplay options to turn off old consoles. People who don't have SSDs. Sure. I keep running into it's like, why are these load times? Is this person on a launch like Xbox One? Come on. But I don't know how they would like. How would they like verbalize that? For you to uncheck it off, right? Like I don't see a good way for them to do that.
Yeah.
Like, SSDs only.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how. That's for them to figure out. You just want it. It's not your job to figure out how to do it. Just get it done.
Sure. Yeah. What else have you been playing?
I played Nobody Saves the World, or I am currently playing Nobody Saves the World because I didn't finish it, I should say. This is the new game by Drinkbox, the company that does Guacamelee 1 and 2. And that game is really great. I really, really like it a lot. It plays like a pretty basic Legend of Zelda in the overworld type stuff, with missions everywhere. And when you go into a dungeon, it plays kind of like a Binding of Isaac sort of like take on the Zelda dungeon thing, where it's not so much about puzzles as it is and going into area and just killing a bunch of dudes and getting a key and then moving on sort of thing. What Nobody Saves the World is, though, is that you play a nobody, which is just like a white dude who does nothing, essentially. And you get a wizard's wand that allows you to transform into different forms, and each form has kind of a different skill set that is associated with it that you need to get through the game. And it's really, really neat how it does things, because those forms all come with like a passive that you can't change and two abilities or whatever associated with them. And at some point you unlock the ability to mix and match those. So you can just like take something from like one of the abilities from one form and put an ability from another form together in this other form that does a certain thing. For example, there's a mermaid form. The mermaid form is the only one that I mean that I know of anyway so far, because it's early, that can swim in water. So I'm using the mermaid's like bubble ability or whatever, her main one, because it does light damage. There's different damage types as well. It does light damage. And then I put on the ranger's like arrow ability because it does sharp damage, and the slug's like gross, like sludgy thing. It spews out a bunch of sludge and like slides around on it to move really fast and to poison things around it, because that
Classic
does
slug.
Yeah, and it's just cool because it's like I'm mixing and matching different things to get through different areas, and the enemy types have started having like not weaknesses so much, but they have shields up that you need to do certain damage types to bring those down so you can damage them. So it's starting to become actually kind of puzzly in how the combat moves. And yeah, it's a really, really cool little game. It's beautiful looking, really good hand-drawn animation. The writing is fun and funny, but it's not my type of funny. It's not like aggressively like bad or anything like that. Like I don't think it's cringy or just like annoying or anything like that. It's just that there's obvious like they're writing this to be funny, and I like can see the humor in it, but I don't find it that funny. But it's like not it's not affecting my enjoyment at all. I think it's a really, really good game that people should play if they have Game Pass. I don't know that I necessarily think you have to buy it for like, if you don't, for like $20 or whatever. A sale would be fine because it seems like it's maybe pretty short. I'm kind of like halfway through the game. I think I've played for 3 hours, maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, if you like Legend of Zelda type games and that sort of thing, you should maybe check it out. It's a pretty cool little game.
If you like Legend of Zelda type games and you have Game Pass, Death's Door was just added. You should definitely play that.
Yeah.
But yes, I did download this. I'm planning to play it pretty soon.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. Just a lot of like, it doesn't do anything particularly special. It's just a bunch of good ideas thrown together. Like you level up by kind of doing essentially little mini challenges or quests. There's different ones per each form. There's different ones per like faction when you start talking and getting quests from like different people. There's like a main nobody quest that levels up your like main nobody guy, and that's basically the main quest, which is like save the wizard or whatever the fuck it is. I can't even remember. Get gems or something. And yeah, it just has that carrot on the stick feel where it feels like you're always upgrading something and kind of unlocking new stuff, and being able to mix and match it is just such a cool way to really make that pretty basic mechanic pop in a way that I don't think it would otherwise. Because at the beginning of the game, it's a little bit annoying being like, oh, now I have to switch from this form that I really like to this like rat form that sucks or whatever. But they open it up so much when it's like, oh, I can just take the thing I really want from that rat form or whatever, or I can be in the rat form because it's small and take this thing I really like from this other form and mix them together with this other thing and make just some crazy build. It's cool. I haven't seen enough people talking about it, and I can see why. A lot has come out, especially like if you haven't played Death's Door. That's one of the best games of 2021. If you have, this is a very good one of 2022, maybe, that should be on your radar. That's it for me.
I finished all of Horizon Zero Dawn and Frozen Wilds in the
Holy
last couple
shit.
weeks.
Okay. Oh, weeks. Yeah, that's right. It's been a couple weeks.
Been a couple weeks since we last talked about it.
Yeah.
I think my time came in around 18 to 20 hours, I think, for
that's
everything.
quick.
I did. Well, I'm playing on story difficulty, so everything dies in like 2 hits,
right.
except for like bosses for the most part.
Yeah.
I want to say I did maybe 2/3 of the quests in Horizon Zero Dawn. I did 100% of absolutely everything in Frozen Wilds.
Yeah. Okay.
That game is great. I definitely missed out not playing that when it first came out. I was obviously real busy with Breath of the Wild, but I am extremely looking forward to that new one, which comes out in like 18 days, like 3 weeks. That's
Yeah.
real soon. Um,
Yep.
I am definitely looking forward to that for sure. It's just great. It looks so good. The PS5 upgrade, 60 frames per second, was well appreciated. So I had a lot of fun with that. I've also been playing a game called The Pedestrian, which was put on Game Pass a couple weeks ago. This is a puzzle platformer where you are like the man or woman sign for like a bathroom. Those flat little characters, the
Yeah,
woman
like
is
the
like in
walk,
a
like
dress.
the pedestrian sign, right? Like the walk sign,
Sure. Yeah,
guy
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Um, and it's like it's like a more puzzly version of the game Framed. Or if you remember,
Yeah.
Framed was like a comic book, and you had to rearrange the frames of the comic book to like tell the story correctly. This is like that, but instead of telling the story, it's you need to connect kind of the doors together so that you can get through the entire, so you can get to the exit and whatnot. So it's like I need to connect this door over here and make sure that I can pull this box over there, yada yada.
Yeah.
And then everything's real flat, and it's like signs that you're putting around. But a lot of the times you're like moving, I don't know, through the ether from one sign to the next, and there'll be these really detailed 3D environments that you're just kind of like passing through as you get to the next, like a lamp post or whatever that has, 4 stickers on it that you need to rearrange around. It has a really kind of cool look. So if you like puzzle platformers, that's on Game Pass, maybe worth checking out. And then also on Game Pass that came out today. I didn't so much play it as I did watch a significant amount of it because my girlfriend is very into Pupperazzi.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is you being paparazzi for a bunch of dogs. So it's
Yeah.
a world where there are dogs just everywhere, and they're just kind of bouncing around, and sometimes they're wearing hats, sometimes they're on like a skateboard, and it's a photography game. So, it plays a lot like Umurangi Generation, or I guess Pokemon Snap if you weren't on rails, because you can go throughout the environments. But it does the thing that like Pokemon's new Pokemon Snap does, where you can like return to environments at different times of days to see kind of different things going on and whatnot, and you get objectives like, get it, find your way into the arcade, and take a picture of Tony Bark doing a trick, which
Great.
is obviously Tony Hawk as a dog. There's a
Yeah.
lot of fun little jokes in there and whatnot. So I had a good time just kind of watching her just lose her mind at these cute little dogs that she would come across that you can pet and stuff and give toys to and just take photos of. So that's a very chill, delightful game that's on Game Pass if you want to check that out. Again, that's Pupperazzi.
Cool.
Let's do a few questions. If people would like to send questions in, it's topdownperspective@gmail.com, at TDP Podcast on Twitter, the Discord channel, or John's P.O. Box. We got episode titles. I say we put those for next week as you've already gotten there. So I will read this first one from Kevin.
Those are better with John anyway, when there's 3 of us.
Sure. Yep. What are some games that immediately hooked you?
Immediately. I mean, definitely the first Resident Evil back when that was out.
Okay.
I'm trying to think earlier than that. Like it's hard to just not say like Mario because I was a kid and it was bright and fun like immediately, but Mario was obviously an instant hook.
Okay. I'm thinking like games that come to mind are ones that just felt really good initially, and it's stuff like Hades or Dead Cells, where it's just like, oh, it just feels good to like move this character around. Forza Horizon 5 has a fantastic intro where I was like, oh, I am ready to do some driving. So that hooked me immediately as well.
Yeah. It's basically like what game leaves like a really good first impression, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Yep. I still think the Lego Forza Horizon expansion has one of the coolest intros to a game. That was really fun.
BioShock instantly hooked me.
Okay.
With that, like,
that's a great
beginning.
intro for sure. Yep. A slow one, but just, kind of aesthetically and tone. Yeah.
Honestly, it's really just like this weird elevator in the middle of nowhere after your plane crashed, and then just this giant underwater world.
Agreed.
All right. Hebrew Lantern writes, if you woke up as a Groot monster but made out of Reese's, would you eat yourself? You can choose type of Reese's, and for partial credit, change it to another candy. So here's the thing, is that I could already eat myself, and I don't, and I like meat. Oh. So no, probably not.
Okay. I mean, I'm just going to say no, because then I'm dead.
Right, exactly. Like,
well, do I grow it back, though? Because Groot can, like, grow more wood.
Oh, I see. Okay. In that case, I mean, here's the question then. You don't know, but do you risk it by like eating a finger and seeing if you could do that?
I feel like you could like eat some fingernails. I mean, I guess technically you could do that now because you do grow fingernails back.
You could, yeah.
And I don't do that, but if I liked the taste of the fingernails because they were Reese's Pieces, then
maybe?
Yes, I would. So I guess my answer is yes. I probably would. I would choose a different candy because Reese's aren't very strong.
What candy would you choose?
I mean, initially I want something with like a pretzel or a wafer in there.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Well, I'm trying to think. You want something durable, so like like a crunchy has that sponge toffee.
Ugh.
You don't like crunchies?
They're fucking poison. No, of course I don't like them.
crunchies quite a bit. Sponge toffee is very good.
Ugh.
But maybe you want something with like some nuts in there for so it can be even stronger.
Sure.
What are you thinking?
I mean, I was okay with Reese's. I like peanut butter and chocolate.
Candy canes are pretty strong. You could be made of candy cane. Nice thing. You also probably want to pick one that like doesn't involve chocolate so that you won't melt.
Oh yeah, that is a good point.
You can't be all chocolate. Like you can't pick like an Aero bar because then you might just melt. You know what I mean?
Is there any candy that like you would want to be made out of then? Because no matter what, you're gonna get sticky at some point. Like it's an uncomfortable life, I think.
Well, are pretzels candy?
I mean, I like them enough that I'll consider. I prefer salty snacks over like candy, anyways.
If I saw someone eating a bag of pretzels, I would not say, "Hey, you're eating candy." I guess I would not call pretzels candy.
Sure. I do like pretzels, probably more than candy. Well, it depends. It depends on your mood, my mood.
So then maybe instead of getting something durable, you want something like licorice, where if you got hit, you would just kind of bend.
You'd be like, "Whoa, yeah."
Yeah, exactly. Like kind of like a.
Like if you've seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but after they flatten the judge and he's all like weird moving and bendy.
Yeah, or like Gumby, basically. That's what I'm thinking.
Or Gumby.
Yeah. Rasterman7 writes in, have you ever refused to buy a game due to it conflicting with your political ideology? And what's your take on including political themes in a game that you wouldn't normally associate them with?
No, because there's no... Well, I guess maybe. I wouldn't buy, like, an alt-right Nazi propaganda game, so maybe. But I haven't, like, known about one, so I haven't just refused to, I guess, on that ground.
Sure, yeah, I've never refused one. Well, so okay, but I guess the thing is, would you buy one that maybe had like themes of that? And then I guess like
I have.
Wolfenstein does, yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Even if they were like pro political ideologies that I don't have, I would almost welcome those because one of the things I appreciate in games is different experiences and whatnot. So that would not turn me off in any way.
Yeah, I guess also this is assuming that the game isn't just some like weird hate-filled propaganda thing, which I would not buy. But like if it was an actual game where it just had some different ideas or whatever, I would probably get that. Sure.
Yeah, like if I'm just trying to think of like an example. If there was like a Life is Strange game, but you happen to be playing like a right wing.
I think that would be more interesting than what Life is Strange has done in a while, actually. That specifically.
I mean, I liked True Colors, but it's not the strongest one in the
I didn't play that one, so yeah.
No, like I'm saying, the
Yeah.
narrative is not the strongest and most interesting, so you might be right there. But my main point of that is like I'm one of the things I like about games is seeing a different perspective and
Yeah.
something new, and I would welcome that kind of stuff. It would not make me say, "Oh, I'm not going to play that because they're pro this." Like it's a
Oh yeah,
video
yeah.
game.
No, I'm more going at the angle of I'm not gonna buy something where you're like a KKK member killing minorities. Like, why? That serves no purpose.
Yeah, if that's the full game,
Yeah.
I would probably not just be interested in that. But if that was maybe like a stage for, and they were trying to do something with that or say a message,
Oh,
like
sure.
in that
Call of
in
Duty's
that
done that
scenario, I think
even.
of like, yeah, exactly. I think of No Rush, and that's exactly what I was going to mention.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm kind of curious what you're trying to say here.
Sure.
So yeah. Um, Second question, Restaurant 7. So this is a work related question, and I'm gonna first off say like you're not great at advising people on what you should do with your job. So take this with a grain of salt. So
Okay.
last year I got hired in a company as a full-time developer working from 9 to 17,
Yeah, nine to
so 9 to
five.
5,
Yep.
Mondays to Fridays. Most recently, I got an email from another company, which, after a recent call, clarified to me they'd like me to work with them as well,
Okay.
20 to 24, so 8
8
to
to
midnight.
midnight. Yeah.
Yeah. Hours on a weekly basis on the remaining hours of the day. So they're asking if they like us to work two jobs a day, basically.
Yeah. Full time and a part time.
Obviously, a huge drawback are the time constraints, but as a plus, I would be paid fairly better since I'm thinking of moving out. I don't have the money to do so. Plus, I would also practice my English speaking skills, which, in case you didn't know already, are very rusty. What would you do if you were in my situation? Take the job offer or decline it?
Okay. At this point in my life, I would decline it probably. There was a time when like I definitely did. If I had to stay, I would do a 20-hour day every now and like there were times where I would do that, and that's fine because it's extra money. I think I'm less more motivated by if I needed the money, I would still do it. So I would do it, but I mean,
Well, so the big question here is it sounds like so they're clearly living with their parents or they're living with some kind of
yeah.
guardian because they're talking about moving out, and they will not be able to do that if they don't take the second job. I think that's kind of the big thing here.
Okay. So here's the thing. I got along with my parents decently enough, and I kind of miss the easy safety net of knowing that there was always like food and a roof over my head, even like giving them money.
Well, for sure. Like, I'm pro being around my parents and hanging out with them. I would assume this person probably doesn't have a terrible relationship with the parents, otherwise they would definitely be trying to move out.
Yeah.
But I feel like we can all appreciate you do get to a point where you want your own space.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to live with your parents if you don't have to.
In the industry, I started working in pretty early in like my 19, 20 or whatever. I definitely did like double shifts and I would just stay at work sometimes. I've like gone to sleep in my car for a few hours and come back. I've definitely done that because if there's a time you're going to do it when you're younger, I think it's better. And there was kind of a like, well, I'm not in school, I'm not doing anything else. Let's just make a bunch of money and buy
See,
video games
I
and
might
shit.
argue the opposite though, because it's like when you get older, you look back at the younger time being like, I had so much free time, I should have used that better. And because now all I do is like work and then go home, work and then go home.
Yeah, I
Whereas,
prefer that. I hated going to the bar and I hated all that stuff.
okay, well, yeah, so different strokes for different folks for sure.
Yeah. I guess
I
like
think,
what do you so the thing is that if you need to do it, you should absolutely do it. That's without a doubt. If you need to move out because you just need to get out, there's a situation or whatever, you should do it for sure.
well, is roommates an option? Like,
If roommates
that's
is
what you
an
should
option,
do.
if roommates are an option, I'm kind of wondering why that wasn't brought up.
Yeah,
That wasn't
like
thought of.
I could understand like maybe I don't have any friends that are looking at the same time, but it's like there are plenty of times where you roommate with someone who you don't know or you are renting a room in someone's house,
Yeah.
and I think that's the way to do it.
That's a
And
good way to
maybe
do
even
it.
do it for a bit. Because Because honestly, these hours, man, you're not gonna have time to do anything else. Like you're gonna get off the shift at midnight, and you're basically gonna go immediately to sleep. You're gonna have a bit of food. You're gonna go immediately to sleep. You're gonna wake up, probably not get a full 8 hours of sleep, have to inhale a breakfast, then go work for 8 hours, and then you have a small 3 hour window to actually sit down and like have a life.
Yeah.
I feel like in with these hours, you are like working to live. No, you are living to work when you should be working to live.
No, it sounds like with the amount of money, he will be working to live. And that's kind of the problem, right? Like, if you don't have to move out, dude, don't move out if you're not ready to. Good Lord. If you're going to be living paycheck to paycheck doing 2 jobs just to, like, survive, just don't do that, man. That's a bad idea.
That's just stressful.
That's a bad idea. Yeah.
I think I'm very pro getting roommates, because I think that's also like a maybe fun is not the right word to look for, but it's a life experience that I think is also worth having.
I agree. That's how I found out that I hate living with other people. But like I wouldn't know that part about myself, and like stuff that bothers me if I didn't at some point. So
right, but well, maybe that's specific to you. I've definitely lived with people who I like, and that can be great. And then you get to meet like their friends, and you get to do social stuff with them, which can be fun. Like there are benefits to living with people.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare. Sure. Ugh, absolute nightmare.
But that helps answer your scenario.
If that second job is like also a step into a better position, maybe at a company that's better for you, sometimes if that's also part of the situation, sometimes you got to do a little bit extra just to get your foot in the door and maybe like get the better job eventually and quit the other one. I don't know what the situation is fully. If you don't need to move out and like do 2 jobs just to survive, I really recommend you don't.
Yeah, I agree. Having 3 hours to yourself to essentially have an actual meal, shower, get any errands, like you're cutting yourself so thin. I can only assume you're going to be you're going to be able to do this for maybe a month before so many things are going to like pile up. You're going to become miserable and stressed out.
Yeah.
Anything that you enjoyed doing, you don't get to do it anymore because you have to just survive in between work and sleep.
Yeah. If you're able to do If you're able to do both while living at home and just like bank money to like easily move out or something, that's the best way to do it, because then at least you're not stressed about if you can't, like, if you have to quit one of them or something.
Well, I'm assuming if they would stay at home, they would not get the second job because they don't need the extra money.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's weird because it sounds like the second job pays better, might like help with the English speaking, which seems to be something that like they value or whatever. Like it seems like that job might be like the intro to maybe a better job, and the other one is just the one that like I need this because it's my steady income, and then the other one without knowing more info.
Scenario, like if you're going into this thinking like this is going to lead to this, I would try and like talk to the people who are hiring you and be like, look, this is where I want to end up in X months down the road, 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road. What's the likelihood that this is going to lead to a full-time job to a full, like, try and figure that kind of stuff out too.
Yeah. It's really hard without knowing like specifics like that. If you're just in
like 2 dead-end jobs that won't lead to not anything, I would
rough.
Take that into consideration.
That's rough. Yeah. Especially just to survive. You definitely don't want that. Trust me. Phantom Aegis says, ahoy TDP crew. There have been many discussions about how there's no perfect game, but what about a perfect game in a franchise? I thought that said in a perfect game franchise. It's like, that's a bigger question. What are you talking? What about a perfect game in a franchise? Do you see as that? Do you have any that you see as the magnum opuses for franchises? Yeah, absolutely. I think most people agree that in Silent Hill it's 2. In Metal Gear Solid specifically, it's 3, Snake Eater. So they have Legend of Zelda in here as an example. Legend of Zelda is a tricky one because everybody has one that they would call the best one in the 3D and 2D space. But I think Link to the Past is generally the one people talk about in 2D.
Right. And I feel like for the most part, like there are favorites, but I still feel like, and then this person's saying like Link to the Past is usually regarded as the magnum opus. It's not their favorite, but they can appreciate why it would be. So they
Yeah,
agree with that.
I think that's fair. The 3D
Just like
ones,
how
though,
I like Wind Waker might be my favorite, or Breath of the Wild might be my favorite, but like
it's
Ocarina of
Ocarina.
Time
Yeah.
might be like the thing. Yeah. Um, if we can define perfect as like perfect up till now, because
Yeah.
there's no way we can say it's going to be the best forever. Like Zelda's a good example. It would have been Ocarina hands down. I think Breath of the Wild really puts a run for money of what is like the best Zelda now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
And franchise even is hard. I'm going to go into Resident Evil here. Everybody says 4, and I disagree because I like original tank control, like static camera angle. So for me, 2 is probably the magnum opus. If you go for like the 4, 5, 6 one, it's definitely 4. Between 7 and 8, people like the first person stuff. People probably say 7. Like, even in franchises, you can change up what that franchise does so much that it could have multiple magnum opuses for like the thing that they're doing now. Because like, is Ocarina of Time any more magnum opus than Breath of the Wild, or are they just too different that they're this now split?
yeah, I agree with that one. Is they've kind of changed the formula enough that it is split. But I guess if you're trying to figure the magnum opus, you need to kind of define what this franchise is and what did
Yeah.
it best. And then when you look at the following titles, like I'm thinking of maybe 3D Mario's here.
Okay.
Mario 64 was kind of like the big one, right?
Sure.
And it's like, so I would argue, Galaxy's it's newer, it has better, it better controls, yada yada. Same with Odyssey, yada yada. But it's like, how much of that wouldn't have even existed without 64, or
Without
is just kind of
Sunshine. Yeah, I
iteration?
agree.
No, see, I didn't even mention Sunshine because I don't have to.
Yeah,
that
because it
game is
just stands.
bad.
It just stands by itself so high that you don't need to.
No, because that's the magnum opus of the other ones, which are the bad Mario games. There was the split there,
Name
kind of
one
like,
other one.
there's one other bad Mario game.
Name
There's
one.
plenty of bad Mario games. The entire Mario Party series.
The entire like new, basically. If there's new in the title, it's probably
Sure, I'll
bad.
put some of the new ones in there for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point was like, yeah, how much is it just iterating on the same ideas versus like it's kind of its whole other thing? I don't know. This is so subjective, but Wind Waker is a great Zelda, and I just want everyone to know that.
All right, fair enough.
Phantom Driver. Hey TDP, recently I was thinking about Back for Blood and how I feel that game is dying. Thought it was fantastic. My question is, what multiplayer games died that you think didn't deserve to die as quickly as they did?
Bleeding Edge. That thing was fun, and it died in the first week. That thing died instantly.
I played probably more Bleeding Edge than most people. It's fine. I'm not sad that it's gone.
No, Bleeding Edge was great.
Personally,
that thing was not pushed at all. Like, that thing was left to die. It wasn't supported for months after it came out.
I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like Overwatch like came and went in a weird way with how like it. I feel like it burned bright and then just like flickered out.
Yeah, sure.
Which is odd because that thing was huge when it came out. It was my game of the year.
I mean, I didn't think Heroes of the Storm deserved to die as quickly as it did, but that's what happens when you don't feed something. It dies. So. Boko writes, where's the dividing line between a game that's just a porn game and a game with sex scenes? For example, Honey Pop and its sequels probably is just viewed as a porn game despite having other gameplay features versus a game like Fate/Stay Night, which also features an amount of sexual content which is integral to the plot, and yet isn't perceived the same way Honey Pop is, going on from a franchise that has grossed more than Friends, Seinfeld, and The Sims. The dividing line is when there's actual gameplay or just boobies, really.
Well, they're saying Honey Pop is seen as a porn game, but it has other gameplay.
Yeah, the Honey Pop one specifically is, I think, the developers really pushed that part of it to try to get people interested in it, because the gameplay
They
is
shot themselves in the foot.
the gameplay is a pretty standard match 3. Is it match 3 or 4 in that one? It's a match game essentially. And there's like actually very little real porn in it. It's just kind of lewd drawings and incredibly crude writing and dialogue.
I think what would really help define it is whether is it just porn versus are they sex scenes? And
Yeah.
I guess we're defining the porn game is the one that is trying to be explicit and showing off that, versus the sex scenes are like the positive one here, like they're the more like appropriate. Is that how we're kind of splitting those two?
I guess.
Okay, so if that's the scenario, let's say, so I guess the example, if you look at Mass Effect, you can have
Yeah.
sex in Mass Effect. No
It's
one would
not a
call
porn
Mass
game.
Effect a porn game. They would
Totally.
say it has a sex scene.
Yep,
Okay.
totally.
There we go. I feel like if the I don't know, the sexual scene in there, the explicit content in there has absolutely nothing to do with anything else in terms of what you're doing narratively or gameplay wise. It is just, oh, and by the way, when you turned the corner, there was some boobs here. I feel like that's the porn game.
What if the narrative is you're looking to see you're the boob inspector, the new boob inspector in town?
Larry?
Actually, that's a good example. Yeah. Are those porn games, or are those just games with sex
Well, I would say
stuff
those
in
are
them?
porn games because the entire point is this guy wants to look at some porn. Whether it be a real person naked or what.
See, I disagree, because there's no real like actual porn in it. Well, maybe the newer ones. I haven't actually played like the new one. There was a new one 2 years ago.
There's always another Lucius Larry.
There's always another one. A lot of the times it's innuendo, silly writing, and like a lot of double entendre and shit like that. And like he's obviously horny and trying to get somewhere, and that's
Right.
usually
Well, I
the
think-
end. But
well, I think in this scenario, porn game is just the title for anything explicit in content, not necessarily there's a boob here.
Okay. I see what. Yeah. I mean, if you go by that definition, Honey Pop is definitely a porn game, because it is all about the writing and like talking very explicitly about maybe to like a really, really crude way in a lot of things. So,
well, and I think if we kind of put Honey Pop up against Mass Effect,
okay.
for this scenario, Honey Pop, if you removed the explicit nature, the stuff that gives it the porn title, you could still play. It would just be a match 3 game, right?
It would be just a match 3 game nobody talks about. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It wouldn't actually. Nothing would actually break. Nothing would be. Well, hang on. You wouldn't be able to match these 3 because there's not a boob right above it.
Right. And in that regard, Leisure Suit Larry, you take all the sex stuff out, it's just an unimportant dude walking around.
There's a dude walking around. And to be fair, in Mass Effect, if you do take out the sex scene, it'll still be fine. But there's so much about the relationships in there.
Yeah.
That it's kind of it's warranted in a bit more. Like theoretically, you could take out the sex scene. You could definitely do that, and you could still have the relationships. But I almost feel like the sex scene is like, I don't want to say earned. Like, congratulations, gamer, you get to see these two people.
Okay, see, that's where Honey Pop does do it. It's like, okay, congratulations, gamer. Here is this picture.
Here's a boob. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then you should just get one of those coin-operated old-timey bar games where you get to play solitaire and see boobs.
Yeah. Weird.
Hopefully that answered the question. Suku writes, describe your favorite video game to someone who doesn't play games.
You walk around in a house while things try to eat you.
Oh, cool. That sounds fun. So okay, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna do Rock Band. So it's like playing an instrument, but if you can't actually play instruments, and instead you have a bunch of toys taking up too much space in your apartment.
That's really the game. Yeah, is finding a place to put the stuff.
So if I did Burnout Paradise, it would be Burnout
You
Paradise. It
drive.
makes sense. It's like, hey, you get to drive crazy cool looking cars
Yeah,
anywhere you want.
sure. I mean, I can't easily explain what you do in Metal Gear. You sneak around and shoot dudes.
Yeah. So you're like an old man with an eye patch, and you got to
It's
sneak through
it's like a
military
James Bond
encampments.
thing. If
Okay. It's
if
like I would say it's like an anime James Bond.
that's really like that's actually extremely accurate. That's a
Yeah.
really good way to describe it.
Yeah. There you go.
Dead. Have you ever beat a medium to long game whose peak was in the first hour? Were you aware the first hour was the peak while playing the game, or did you realize upon reflection? I'm sure this has happened.
Closest that comes to mind is maybe like Crackdown 3.
The thing
Where
is
you
that I'm
realize
not
it's just
afraid
kind
to
of a
stop
letdown.
playing a game if I'm no longer having fun. I'll just stop.
Well, I think that goes part of it is if you're getting to a point where you want to stop it, then clearly your enjoyment of it has lowered significantly enough
Yeah,
that you're done with it. So, but the question is, was there a game where eh,
the very
your
best
your
thing.
enjoyment started good and wasn't just middling the whole time until you were like, this is a waste of my time?
Yeah.
That's why I think Crackdown 3 is a good answer because it starts off being like, yeah, this is Crackdown. This is what I remembered. And then you just kind of realize, oh, this is just kind of
This is
stale.
this is yeah,
There's
this is
nothing really
Crackdown.
here. Yeah. Like what even is this game? Why did
Yeah.
this take 5 years to make? Last question here from BGC Kenny. My roommate is playing Shin Megami Tensei 5, and he had an interesting question, which I'll ask you. Is there a game or game series where taking out the plot and leaving the gameplay would make it better? Absolutely. Every single Borderlands. Outriders is another one of those. Um,
You wouldn't have to do
I
much
just,
work with Outriders to take that plot out either, honestly. Just mute
I
it.
mean, I skipped a lot of those cutscenes because I could not care less. Um, the Ascent, I pretty much did not pay attention to any of the cutscenes in that game, and the gameplay was fine, except apart from the part where it broke every 3 minutes. What about you?
I definitely would not play the Ascent without the plot and stuff going around in
Okay.
it. But I see why you could do that. um the thing that's throwing me off is make it better. So like I'm trying to Outriders is like pretty good because I did that. I did skip everything. I didn't read anything that like any of the notes or anything.
Right. I guess if I'm actually making it better, then none of those make sense because at no point am I like skipping the cutscene and being like, "And this is so much better because
Because
no
I
one
don't know
talks to
what's
me."
going on. Yeah.
No, actually, I take that back. Because I skipped Claptrap saying anything to me, I had a better time than if he did talk to me.
Yeah.
So it is Borderlands. That's the answer.
Borderlands is a good one. Yeah, it's probably Borderlands. Also, I hate Tiny
Right.
Tina.
Yeah, I'm gonna play that new one though. That's all about her.
Ugh.
So we'll see how much of the cutscenes I play. That's gonna do it for questions. If you want to send in questions from next week, it's topdownperspective@gmail.com, at TDP Podcast on Twitter, the Discord channel, or John's PO Box. What's your game of the week?
Nobody saves the world.
And I'm gonna give it to Horizon Zero Dawn and the Frozen Wilds expansion. A couple things to pay attention to. If you somehow listen to this but not the last episode was our Game of the Year episode, and you should listen to that. It's a pretty good one. It's also very long.
Yeah.
And also, if you're a TBP subscriber, we put out a movie TV show of the year episode last week as well. So you should check out some of the movies and TV we recommend, and don't check out the ones we don't recommend.
Yeah.
Our next episode of TVP is going to be about the HBO Max show Peacemaker, which is the spinoff of the Suicide Squad. So look forward to that in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And the current poll for February's TDP Plus game is live, so go vote on what we are going to play through next week. Otherwise, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.